Hello, my name is Jeremy Barnes, and today I'm going to do a review for the last two episodes and then a full series review for What If, Marvel Studios animated series on Disney Plus, which goes into the multiverse, really for like the first real time in the MCU, after it was kind of let free by Loki at the end of that show. Spoilers. But the show wouldn't exist without it, so if you haven't watched Loki yet, um, that one's on you. So I'm gonna talk about first episode 8, which is like the runner-up to the finale. And that one is called "What If Ultron Won?" And won what, you might ask? Well, it means what if Ultron won the battle between him and the Avengers from Avengers 2, which was called Avengers: Age of Ultron. And that movie didn't really go into a full age of Ultron, but this episode of What If definitely does. So it shows what would happen if he actually did get what he wanted and became like the ruler of the land. And it was insane. Like, I gotta say, it was super cool. Um, Everything that we saw in this episode got me excited for the Multiverse of Madness, and of course, the finale. Like, it got me excited for the finale, but once we got to the finale, and even before that, in this episode alone, like, man, I'm just imagining what they're gonna give us in the live action version of the multiverse when we get that movie, Doctor Strange 2. And it's gonna be wild because it's already wild here, but I feel like on one hand they're kind of like they don't have to hold back at all because it's animation, so they could just go nuts with it. But at the same time, I feel like we're not getting super deep into it yet, so I feel like they're saving like the real good stuff for when we get to the movie, which, like I said, gets me super excited for that, man. And obviously before then we're gonna get Spider-Man No Way Home, which will also be partially about the multiverse. I don't think we'll see like necessarily the multiverse in that movie, but we'll have different versions of characters in it. So that'll be exciting to see. The only thing about episode 8 that I think is like a negative is that it just could have benefited from a deeper dive and a little bit of a cleaner continuity when we compare it to like the Sacred Timeline, the main MCU movies. Um, And by deeper dive, I just mean like if it had more time to like really breathe and give more substance to each of the things that we see, because it kind of like things happen, but they're like super quick, or it's just like kind of hinted at, but we don't really see everything. So we have to kind of use our imagination to do a lot of the work, which is fine, but like show us that stuff, man. Like this is a visual medium, so why not, you know? And I feel like this movie, man, it could have been a movie. I mean, this episode, it could have been a movie. And it would have been like so fucking cool as a movie. Like, out of any of the episodes in What If, this one is the one that I want to see in live action the most. Like, if this was just its own thing as a movie live action, it would have been dope. And who knows, we could still see something like related to this in Multiverse of Madness or some other movie, but I don't know. After the finale, which I'll get to later, I'm not really sure about that. But man, like this episode was crazy. All right, so now I'm gonna go into it specifically a little bit. So I guess I'll talk about it like chronologically, the way that things happen, and I'll run through my favorite parts of the episode as I've been doing in my other reviews. But then I'll also say some things that I wish they would have added or could have been better. But in order from beginning to end of the episode. So first of all, the first thing that was awesome was the opening chase sequence with Black Widow and the Ultron bots, and then Hawkeye was covering her. And both of them as a duo were dope as hell in this episode. They were both badasses. But man, Black Widow on a motorcycle, she is like good, man. the action on that bike was dope for sure. And when she flipped off of it to attack the Ultron bots, that was hot as hell too. Hot as in just like it was cool, not sexy, but Black Widow's always sexy, so I guess that too. And then Hawkeye's like little invisibility cloak was pretty dope. Um, and it's funny how like his haircut, how every time Hawkeye's depressed, he cuts his hair like that. Because in Endgame, after his family died, he had that mohawk haircut, and then now everybody's dead, and he had a similar haircut in here. So that's just what I noticed. So that's kind of funny. But another part that was really dope was when we actually saw like how we got to this place with this desolate apocalyptic world with Black Widow and Hawkeye, and it was like going back into the Age of Ultron movie and showing like, all right, so this is how Ultron was created, which we know if we've seen the movie. But then this is what changed and why we got to the place we are here, which didn't happen in the Sacred Timeline. And obviously, in the movie, Ultron was trying to upload his consciousness into a vibranium body that he created, which was Vision's body. But it was intended to be Ultron's like final form. But the only reason why it didn't happen was because the Avengers stole the body from Ultron, and so he was not able to do it. And then instead, Tony Stark put Jarvis inside of it instead. Um, and then it was given life partially by Thor with his lightning. And that's how Jarvis was created. But in this version, he succeeded in uploading his consciousness into this body, and it gives him like immense power because he has the power of the Mind Stone, and he uses it for like he actually uses it. Vision would hardly ever use it because he was peaceful, but Ultron is all about just destroying everything, and and that was insane. Like he killed all of the Avengers. We saw Captain America, Thor, and Hulk were all dead, and then Iron Man he killed on the spot right there. When he was at the Oslo like nuke hub or whatever it is, the digital hub, and he got the nuclear codes and just bombed the fuck out of the entire Earth. So that's how we got to where we started this episode out at, and that was wild, man. Like that's the part where like I feel like if that was Age of Ultron, or if we just seen a whole like alternate version of Age of Ultron where this happened, like I would have been happy with just that. But then we got even like more cool stuff in this episode. But like I feel like this could have been like a three-parter or even more. Um, so like that's what I mean when I say like it could have been it could have gone a little bit deeper into that. And actually speaking on that Age of Ultron backstory, a negative for me was that there was no mention or like reference or anything of Wanda or Pietro, which obviously were in Age of Ultron, the movie, and that was where they first like they were introduced. But here there was no indication of them, so I don't know if in this universe they just didn't exist or like what. But I feel like if they were there, they would have probably both survived, and it would have just been cool to see Pietro again because I was hoping he would be in WandaVision, like the actual MCU version of Quicksilver, Pietro, her Wanda's actual brother. But we didn't see that. We saw the X-Men version come in. So this would have been a cool place to put him because we didn't get him there. We could have gotten him here, but they're like, nah, we're just not even gonna include them. Forget they were there. They weren't there. So that was kind of lame because that would have been dope to see, and it would have made more sense like to have more like some super powered individuals as survivors instead of just these two random ass motherfuckers, Black Widow and Hawkeye. But I mean, it is what it is. I guess they're trying to showcase them, which it was cool seeing them in the episode, but it would have been cool seeing other people as well. And then another part that was dope was when we see Thanos come through the portal with the five Infinity Stones. So he's coming here for the last one, which was the Mind Stone. And Vision just fucking offs this man right away, cutting him in half with the Mind Stone. That shit was crazy. But again, like it would have been cool if if that was like more of a scene and we got to see some sort of confrontation between them, like ideological confrontation, because we know both Thanos and Ultron are both philosophers. So it'd have been cool seeing either a conversation and or like an actual fight between them instead of just dead. Um, and it would have been cool seeing how Thanos got the stones because this is a whole different timeline. So if we actually like look back at it, he probably still got the Tesseract or the Space Stone the same way that he did in the Sacred Timeline, which would have been um, like just going to Asgard or to Loki and just getting it. It would have been a slightly different situation because Ragnarok wouldn't have happened yet. But he probably would have just gotten it from Loki. And then the orb, the Power Stone, he would have got from Xandar, which it went to at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie. But in Infinity War, they said he destroyed Xandar, but here it seems like he probably didn't. He might have damaged it, because when we go to Xandar later in the episode, we do see that like the headquarters of the Nova Corps, the building is like partially damaged. So he just probably spared it, but he just stole the stone. But then the first one that is like he would have had to have gotten a little bit differently is the Time Stone. And at this point, it would have been before Doctor Strange became a sorcerer. So he probably would have had to fight the Ancient One to get it. So that would have been fucking awesome to see Thanos versus the Ancient One. And then the next stone probably would have been the Reality Stone. So that would be the fourth one. And he probably would have gotten it the same way by going to the Collector nowhere. And I don't know if he killed him in Infinity War. Presumably he did. But either way, he would have either had to face him in some way or the Collector would have just dipped out and just left it there. Thanos would have just gotten it. So that one was probably the same. The Collector got that at the end of Thor: The Dark World because that's where the Reality Stone appeared first in the MCU, and that is before Age of Ultron. But then for the fifth stone, the Soul Stone, that one is kind of interesting because in the original timeline, he sacrificed Gamora on Vormir to get it. But here we see Gamora later on. Ultron goes to the Sovereign, which is when the Guardians go there in the beginning of Volume 2. And when we go there here, we see that Gamora is actually there, so she's still alive. And this is after Thanos had the Soul Stone. So he wouldn't have sacrificed Gamora. But I saw somebody else online say that it could be that he sent, instead of Gamora and Nebula to find the Soul Stone, he sent Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, who were like a couple. And because they love each other, one of them would have had to sacrifice the other to get the Soul Stone for Thanos. So I'm guessing that's probably how it went down in this version, because that makes the most sense. So that would be kind of interesting. I wouldn't necessarily care to see that, but it would be cool if we did get to see a little bit more of their characters fleshed out as characters. If they were to make this like a movie, or if it was something that was longer than just a 30-minute episode. But then obviously he comes here for the Mind Stone, and he gets off by Vision right away. So after Ultron gets the other 5 stones, he gains like immense knowledge from the stones of the entire universe. So he begins, after he already destroyed Earth, going to other planets and other places, and then he begins destroying all of those. And we see he first Ragnarok's Asgard before it would have happened in the Sacred Timeline. He goes to Ego, he bombs that motherfucker, killing a Celestial. So Ultron is like super powerful if he could kill a Celestial like nothing in this universe. So this motherfucker is scary. He goes to Xandar, he destroys that, and it was cool seeing that little confrontation with Captain Marvel, and she fucking flew his ass to the fucking core of the planet and still couldn't do shit to him. And then he fucking not only destroyed that planet, but the entire solar system where Xandar was, which was fucking wild. But it was a cool little moment though, and it was cool because they really highlighted Captain Marvel's power there. Like she can destroy planets, which they hinted at in the episode 7 with Thor, Party Thor, where she fought him. She said it, but this time we actually saw that yeah, she probably can do that. So that was kind of cool. And then he also destroys Sakaar, where Thor Ragnarok took place on, partially where the Grandmaster is from, and Korg, and them two are also gone. So all of that was crazy, and then he has this moment of silence where he's destroyed everything in the entire universe. We're assuming, um, and he's just like, he feels like his mission's complete. So he's like, damn, what do I do now? And then we see that the Watcher starts narrating. He's like, Ultron, now that he finished his goal, was just in silence, and then we see Ultron's fucking eyes start like turning, and then the Watcher keeps fucking narrating, and then he's like, "Who said that?" So this motherfucker heard the Watcher just like Doctor Strange in episode 4, but this one was like it was cool seeing it the first time, and it actually was cooler there the first time just because it was the first time we saw somebody become aware of the Watcher. But here, it was scary because this motherfucker is not, he's no joke. So that shit was insane. And then the Watcher fucking freaks out. He's like, holy shit, how the fuck did he hear me? I'm supposed to know everything. I've seen everything, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now. This has never happened before. So then, because of the Watcher speaking, Ultron becomes aware of the multiverse, and then now he has a new fucking objective, which is to destroy every universe, which is insane. So he becomes a multiversal threat, which is why um, multiple heroes have to come together in the finale. But we'll get there later. Um, so that shit was insane. That was definitely probably one of my favorite moments in the entire show when Ultron becomes aware of the Watcher. And he doesn't find him right away, but he begins searching immediately. And then it goes back to Black Widow and Hawkeye. They go to the base from Civil War in Siberia because they're looking for Arnim Zola, who could corrupt Ultron as a virus to finally try to take him out. Because nothing else obviously has worked or will work, so they have to defeat him from within, which is actually interesting because that's what Ultron said his plan was for taking out the Avengers in Age of Ultron, and he used Wanda to do that because she had her powers to get into the mind. So that's kind of funny that they flipped it like that, which I just noticed literally right now that I was talking about it. But when we see them, like they're looking through a bunch of boxes to try to find them, and we see Black Widow, she finds Red Guardian's shield, and like she puts it on. So that was kind of cool after seeing the Black Widow movie. We get to see her use that and kind of like step into those shoes. Um, and like she's a badass with the shield. And Hawkeye in this whole episode also was a badass. That whole sequence where they're running away from the Ultron bots after they get Zola into a little arrow, a USB arrow for Hawkeye. He's taking out bots left and right. And then man, when Hawkeye, when they had the like end game flip with Hawkeye and Black Widow, but this time Hawkeye is like falling down. I did not like that Hawkeye fucking just died, bro, because he didn't even sacrifice himself because he didn't need to die. This motherfucker like literally just gave up. And in my opinion, that's not heroic at all because he just left Natasha there by herself. Like what the fuck? Like they were so close. Like they're finally, after all this time, close to fucking finding a way to defeat Ultron. And then he just fucking leaves her. Like as far as we are aware, these are the last two motherfuckers on the whole planet, and he just fucking leaves her when they're right at the end of the fucking goal line. And like it was supposed to be heroic, but that shit was not heroic to me. And it just fucking showcased why Hawkeye should have been the one to die in the fucking sacred timeline too. And they should have kept Black Widow alive. But I don't know. It is what it is. I guess maybe Scarlett Johansson just wanted to retire from the role, and maybe Jeremy Renner still wanted to do a few things more in the MCU. But I don't know. They should have killed him a long time ago instead of killing Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. But damn, I guess this is another version of the same movie where Hawkeye. Well, this time he did die, but in the original movie, it should have been him instead of Quicksilver too. But anyway, when we go back after like Black Widow's like, why didn't Arnim Zola's like little blasting work? Because he tried to corrupt Ultron with a little like kind of EMP type thing and corrupt the hive mind, which is Ultron. She asked it why didn't he work, and it's because he's not in the observable universe. Because at this point he's like in the Nexus, which is what I'm calling it, and that's like the world between all the universes, and that's like the Watcher's domain. And he fucking busts through and finds the Watcher finally, and then they have the showdown, which was fucking dope as shit. Ultron versus the Watcher, and the Watcher honestly, like when he went fucking God mode, that shit was cool. But this motherfucker was getting his ass beat by Ultron, bro. Like it wasn't even. Well, it was fucking funny actually, but it was not funny for him. He was like, "Holy shit, I can't defeat him alone." And he was going through a bunch of fucking universes, and then at the end, he was fucking hitting universes through the Watcher. Which I don't know if it was the Watcher's powers that allowed that to happen, or if it was just Ultron doing that. But we saw like Wakanda instead of New York, instead of a medieval castle, and then we saw like a scroll ship or base or whatever. That shit was wild. And then the Watcher, he's like, "Fuck this, I'm gonna dip out," and he retreats and like blasting Ultron's face so that he can't see nothing. And then it goes to the end, which is a little tease for the finale, and the Watcher goes to Doctor Strange Supreme, asking him for help. And the music that played right there was dope as hell, man. Like the way they ended that with the music and everything was just fucking perfect. The perfect tease for the finale. And I didn't even mention like when Ultron just casually went Galactus and fucking ate a whole galaxy. That part was wild. Right before the Watcher falls into a version of New York. And it was cool how in that version, Steve Rogers actually was being sworn in as president. So that was kind of cool too. He kind of looked different though. I feel like that was like a literally different universe version of Steve. Because even in like episode 1, he still looked like Chris Evans, skinny version from Captain America 1. And then we also saw him in, what was it, Civil War 2. But here, like when he was Big Steve, he fucking looked different. And I don't think we ever saw him without his helmet on in the other episodes as Captain America. But I swear, I don't think he probably would have looked like that. So I feel like this was the first case where we saw somebody, a character, that looked different in a different universe or a different timeline. So that was kind of interesting as well. But I don't know if that's just me thinking about that. But now let's go into the finale. So the finale was called "What If the Watcher Broke His Oath?" And he already did that in the previous episode, so we already knew this was gonna happen. And of course, when he went to Doctor Strange, it was not just gonna be Doctor Strange. They were gonna recruit all the heroes from all the stories that we saw throughout the season. And that was cool that that's how they started out. I did not expect to see like the Winter Soldier movie with Peggy Carter. So that was kind of a cool surprise for me. And I don't know why I didn't expect that because I did notice that in the trailer when they showed the Guardians of the Multiverse, she did have a Winter Soldier looking suit, in her version with the British symbol on her chest. But I don't know. I just thought it was just gonna be a suit. I didn't think they were actually gonna show us some of that. And it was cool how it was like pretty similar, like down to the last detail to the movie. So it's crazy how really her universe, it really didn't change much. It was just a switch between her and Steve, um, for the most part. But it was cool how like the Watcher had his little catchphrase for everybody when he went to them. He's like, "You have been chosen." And it was cool seeing Star Lord save Peter Quill, who is Star Lord in our universe, in that version from his father Ego. And and then at the end we see them team up when everybody goes back to their universes. So that was kind of a little cool thing too. Um, and then it was funny how Thor, the Watcher, was talking to him and he was not paying attention because he was fighting all these Ultron bots and he just could not hear. And then the Watcher just grabs him and he freaks out. And then that's how it goes to when they're all in the room together, in the little base. I feel like the Killmonger one, when the Watcher gets him, it sucked because like we didn't see that story conclude really at all. Like I felt at a loss in episode 6 with that episode with Killmonger at the end, but I thought we were gonna get some sort of resolution here, but because the episode, it just kind of like briefly shows each of those universes, we don't actually see what how they play out and how they end those stories. We just see the characters get plucked out of them. Like I felt really let down by this episode from that story perspective, but especially with Killmonger because like the Shuri and Pepper thing, it could have been something cool. Like why would they do that if they were just gonna not do anything with it? Like I was like, what the hell? Like literally, they come in, blast through the fucking doors in the throne room, and at this point, Killmonger has like fucking destroyed Wakanda. I don't know why, or maybe it was just like a civil war happening that he caused, just like in the sacred timeline. But here, I feel like it's even worse. But then he's gone, obviously, because the Watcher takes him. And then, spoiler for the end, obviously Killmonger never goes back because he gets taken out of the equation fully. So that's just like it. Like he's just gone for these people. So they're like, what the fuck? So I don't know. That was just kind of lame to me. And overall, I feel like this episode was a little bit of a letdown with all those story aspects, but I feel like the cool thing about it was that it was really fun to see all the action and interactions between all the Guardians of the Multiverse members. Um, but yeah, but once again, like it would have been better if this episode just had more time to breathe. Like I don't know why I was expecting this, but I thought we would see each of these stories from these other episodes wrap up and then go into the finale. Like I thought that would have been like the episode before the finale, and I actually wasn't expecting the Ultron thing to even have a backstory. I'm glad it was because that was one of the coolest episodes. But I feel like they could have added one more episode, one that was just wrapping up these stories, and then take out all these characters for the finale. But I don't know. That's just me. And then also going off of that, it also sucks that they just totally ignored the zombies universe because that was also one of my favorite episodes. Actually, I think that is my favorite episode even still now. Now that we've gotten all the episodes. And I thought Spider Man would have been somebody that was recruited from that because I thought they were going to recruit somebody from each one. And Spider Man's the only one like left from that universe. The only one that they wouldn't have recruited nobody in is episode 3, the one where all the Avengers died because everybody died. So there's nobody to recruit from there, unless they got Captain Marvel from that universe. But I guess she wouldn't really be much help because she already tried to take out in this version of her Ultron, and she got off by him. So maybe that's why the Watcher didn't recruit her. But then we didn't see any fucking indication of how the zombie storyline ends. No zombie Thanos or anything. So like, why the fuck did they put zombie Thanos at the end of that episode if we're not gonna see it again? So I hope they continue it in season two. Like if that happens, all right, I'll be happy. It'll be okay that I had to wait for it. But if that's it, if they don't touch it again, I'm gonna be mad because it would have been a fucking perfect ending or episode if they just didn't put Thanos there. Like I wouldn't even have thought about Thanos, and it would have been a hopeful ending, and we could have concluded that they fucking made it. They made the cure, and that would be the end of it. But now we had that cliffhanger that we're never gonna get a fucking answer for. So unless there is another episode in season two, but I just didn't like that. So I don't know. I'm hoping that we get more of zombie universe at some point. But anyway, let me talk about some more things that I liked. I like the subtle callbacks to the previous episodes, like between characters or phrases. I can't think of any straight up, but I did notice some when I watched it like the second time, I think. Um, so there were some of those, so that was pretty cool. And then now let me just go into like my favorite parts of it to keep it on the positive side. And then just like with episode 8, I'm gonna interject a few things that I feel like we could have benefited from seeing a little bit more of, um, as well, like in the chronology of the episode. So, all right. So first of all, when the Watcher is recruiting everybody in each universe, we see something that we didn't see anything of before, which is the Tony Stark and Gamora universe, where they're actually in Nidavellir, which was insane. I was like, holy shit, what is this when I was seeing it? And that was really cool. Uh, Iron Man's armor looks like a fucking transformer, which like I don't mind because Transformers look cool, but that was kind of interesting, and he was like super huge. But it seems like he fought on Sakaar and Gamora probably as well, and that's how they met. And this was actually supposed to be its own episode, but because of COVID, I think a animation studio that was working on What If on this episode particularly, I think got like shut down or something, so they had to like delay the episode. But we will still see it in season two. They just pushed it to season two, which like because it's the multiverse and each of these stories were like separate stories. This was mostly an anthology series. I was okay that they still had them in this episode because it was important for the episode, which they already like included them. They couldn't really change that, or they didn't want to change it. So I'm fine that they were still here, even though we didn't see their backstory, because we didn't really need to see their backstory because there was nothing here that like referenced it that we like didn't understand. If we at least have seen, obviously, if we know the characters already from the movies, that was enough. But it definitely got me excited for this episode, seeing that because it seems like it's gonna be a really fucking cool episode. And Space Iron Man is something that I've been waiting for, and which we never really got to see. Like we saw him in space, but we didn't see him use space technology in his armor, which I'm assuming he did here because he has some like Sakaran symbols on the suit. So that was cool, and they said that Gamora killed Thanos in this universe, so that's why she has his armor. And I wonder if we will see that in the episode, which I hope we do, and I feel like we probably will, because I feel like that would probably be like one of the key plot points of that episode. Because for every character that the Watcher recruited, he said like kind of the little backstory in like a line with like two things. Like for Killmonger, he said murderer and former protege of Tony Stark, and here he said Gamora, survivor of Sakaar and destroyer of Thanos. So I feel like we will see that in that episode, which would be pretty cool. Um, and hopefully it happens next year. I hope they do a season of What If every single year. But we'll see what happens. Marvel's doing a lot of shit, so it could be at any time. Um, but after that, seeing the Guardians of the Multiverse meet each other when they all do get to that little like pub that Doctor Strange Supreme chose to be like the little base of operations. That was cool, and they're planning on how to take down Ultron. And Gamora actually has this like device, which we did see in their universe, that is actually an Infinity Stone destroyer, and they were actually melting Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet in the Nidavellir melting chamber. Um, so that was pretty cool, and it had a cool design. Um, and then we got to see Captain Carter being like the captain of the team, which is cool because Captain America is the captain of the Avengers, so it makes sense. And then obviously seeing them actually team up when they first faced Ultron was also dope. And man, that fight was dope as hell. We saw Doctor Strange and Thor do a little team up when he threw Mjolnir, and then Strange did like some sort of duplication spell where he duplicated it like a certain number of times, and there's just a bunch of fucking Mjolnirs flying all over the place and hitting Ultron. That was cool. And then we saw Captain Carter and T'Challa Star Lord team up, where she flew up on him like the Hydra Stomper in episode one, and she jumped into him with her shield to distract him. And then when she was like falling, she caught one of the Mjolnirs to fly back. That shit was dope. And then Star Lord jumped on him while he was distracted to steal the the Soul Stone, which I don't know why it was important for that stone specifically, because they did plan it like that we need to get the Soul Stone. I don't know why specifically that one, but it was cool that he used the Sticky Fingers maneuver, which he that was one of the callbacks to episode two, that he says Yandu always says, "Don't doubt Sticky Fingers." So that was pretty dope and pretty fun. And then later on, we see when they get to the other universe. I think it's back to the main, like Ultron's universe, when they go through a multiverse portal that the Watcher opens for them. Black Widow actually steals the Soul Stone because she's like, who are these people? She's supposed to be the only one there. But we actually see Captain Carter because she knows a version of Natasha from the present day of her universe, 2014. Um, she's able to like kind of talk to her and make her trust them. And then they team up also on Ultron, and Black Widow had the Red Guardian shield, and obviously Captain Carter has her shield. So they like do a little boom to like a football tackle where somebody gets the legs and somebody gets the top, the torso, and that shit was cool too. And just seeing their little friendship was pretty dope as well in the beginning. It was actually weird. I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like Captain Carter's hair looked weird in this episode. Like she didn't even look like Captain Carter in a lot of this episode for me. But I don't know. Like I said, it could just be me. But Black Widow, on the other hand, the Winter Soldier look and animation, I actually like better than in live action. Like I did not like that hairstyle in the Winter Soldier movie, but here she looks fucking good, man. Like I was like, damn, what the hell? How did they make her look so good? Like the hair actually works here. I don't know. I don't know why it works in animation, but not in live action. But I don't know. That was just me. Anyway, seeing them interact there and then later on as well was really cool. But the fucking MVP GOAT of the Guardians of the Multiverse, hands down, is Doctor Strange Supreme. When he fucking did that dragon thing, that shit was dope. And then Ultron, he fucking made himself huge. And then Doctor Strange like, get your ass down here, boy. And he fucking got him with the tentacles. That shit was dope as hell. And then Ultron was like getting annoyed by the Guardians of the Multiverse. So he tried to fucking destroy the entire galaxy or whatever solar system. And fucking Doctor Strange just fucking absorbed the fucking blast of whatever the hell he did and fucking ate it, bro. Like, what the fuck? That shit was nuts. But it makes sense from episode 4 because that's what he was doing to gain all the power. He was like consuming all of these fucking creatures. And in this case, he just consumed the blast. And that shit was dope, man. I was like, what the fuck? At first, I thought he ate the soul stone. I was like, what the fuck, bro? But then when I watched it again, I think I actually rewinded. I was like, wait, hold up, what the fuck just happened? And it was just a blast of Ultron trying to destroy the fucking planet. But Ultron was like, what the fuck? Like he was caught off guard too. So that shit was dope. And then at the end, when we get back to Captain Carter and Widow, when Ultron's like pissed, so they try to get all the Infinity Stones. Like Doctor Strange is holding him, and they get it. Um, Gamora uses that little device that destroys the stones to like take it out of Ultron's armor, and they try to destroy it, but it doesn't work. And that actually poses a question for me. Like I was I was confused on how like what the rules of the Infinity Stones across the multiverse are. Like they exist in every single universe. We know that that's a constant, but it seems like in each one there's like slight variations between them. Like they have different properties in different universes, which that makes sense. But something that a lot of people were bringing up in last episode was like a lot of people thought because in the comics, um, the soul stones, or in the comics they're called infinity gems, um, they only work in the universe that they come from. So if you take them to a different universe, they wouldn't work. Like they're null. And because they don't work in the TVA, people thought the same thing would be true in any universe as well in the MCU. But in last week's episode, we saw in episode 8 that Ultron was able to use them in every universe. So is it that they could be used in other universes, but the technology from other universes can't affect them because Gamora's technology of the Stone Crusher didn't work in destroying these stones? So is that the rule or what? Like I feel like they need to be a little bit more clear about that. Otherwise, there's gonna be a lot of plot holes moving forward. Especially, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna do anything more with the Infinity Stones. I don't think they will, but who knows? Like they could. And if they do, or even if they don't, they need to really be careful with this type of stuff when it comes to the multiverse. Because if they don't lay out the rules, it could get super gimmicky really fast, and like people could start to like gripe with it, which would really suck because the MCU has been really good with keeping up with their continuity and keeping everything in line. And if they start to drop the ball now, it's going to be really unfortunate because that was one of the things that made the MCU so great is that they had like all their details they fucking know, and they pay so close attention to those details that the continuity is the best in any cinematic universe so far. But here it could start to get like start to fucking unravel with the multiverse. So I hope they go into some of those rules a little bit more in the later movies and maybe in later seasons of What If. But I don't know. And actually, speaking on the Infinity Gems from the comics, I like that the design of the Infinity Stones in this episode are actually in line with the gems. Like they're not stones like all like angular and stuff. They're actually super smooth in this episode. So they actually look more like how they looked in the comics. So that was kind of cool. as a design choice. Um, and then I also spoke about the Watcher's little multiverse portal, and we actually see Captain Carter travel through it. And I like how the design of that is different from the quantum realm, like portal or whatever that they did when they traveled through time in Endgame. That one was kind of like a bluish thing, and it had like little sort of tunnels. But here is like the crystalline effect, which we see at the end of episode 4 with Doctor Strange when he kind of starts it around himself as a little pocket dimension. When the rest of his universe collapses, it has like more of a purplish hue to it, and it's kind of like it looks like the mirror dimension from the Doctor Strange movies, but it's a purplish color, and we see that that's kind of the border between universes as well, and the Nexus and the Watcher's domain. So it was cool that those two things you could visually see the difference between them. So the quantum realm is just a realm that you could travel through time within the same universe, but here it's like a little portal thing or whatever that lets you go through universes, and it was less of a smooth ride for Captain Carter than it was for the Avengers in the quantum realm. Like she was fucking hitting shit left and right, which could make her accidentally go to the wrong universe, but luckily she did make it to the one that she wanted to go to. Um, but I wonder if we're gonna see any more of that when characters start traveling from between universes and Spider-Man No Way Home, and then obviously in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm assuming we'll probably see it again in Quantumania as well, which I hope they don't confuse it there. Like how I was just talking about, the quantum realm looks different from that, but I'm assuming that we will see a multiverse thing in that movie as well. So I don't know. We'll see. That's a little bit further down the line, but I hope they keep their rules tidy and all that. At the end, we see that after that doesn't work, destroying the stones, Ultron is just trying to destroy their little protection spell that Strange put over each of the characters, and Black Widow and Captain Carter team up again to she sees and remembers about the little Zola arrow, and actually Zola wasn't even there as a robot in this episode, which was kind of interesting, but he was in the little arrow that he used to corrupt that bot last time. So she has the idea that since nothing else is working, maybe this would work, and he's here now, so we can try to make that, infect him with the virus of Zola. But she needs Captain Carter to distract him and like to open up his little helmet thing so they could get the eye, which is like the USB socket, I guess, for these Ultron bots, and and they do that. So she's on the bike, Widow's on the bike, and she goes to get like a clean shot, and then Captain Carter runs up behind Ultron and jumps on him to lift up his helmet, and they get him, and it was cool seeing how the effect of it when we see Zola infecting Ultron. It kind of looked like an old school like 2004 video game render where it looked like a different animation design from the rest of the whole series so far. So that was kind of cool, even though it was a tiny little moment. It was cool to see some variation there because they could have done more with that, like how they did in Spider Verse, where each universe had its own unique look to it. But they didn't do that here because it would have been a lot. Like I think it would have been a lot more because there were so many, different ones that they did here, where we actually saw a full episode in each one, whereas Spider Verse was like a quick little moment in each one. So it made sense that they didn't do that, but it was cool that here in the digital version of the world, it actually did have its own unique animation design. So that was pretty cool. But another thing I didn't like was right after that, Like that is what defeats Ultron, which I was okay with that. It kind of seemed super easy, but I was okay with it because maybe sometimes the easy way is the way to go. But after Ultron's defeated, Killmonger walks up with a fucking Ultron helmet, which I think he got from Thor bringing it to that bar in um, in the beginning when everybody first meets. And he starts to fucking absorb Ultron's armor, which I don't know how the fuck he was doing that. Like, was it just because it was made out of vibranium and vibranium can do that? Like, I don't know. That's what it was. Like, maybe in this universe, that is a property of vibranium. Like, just like the Infinity Stones, maybe different versions of the same element have different properties in different universes. Because we've never seen vibranium do that before. Well, I guess if you think about it in the nanotech, I guess it does. But the way that it is where it like absorbs from a whole different object into itself, I don't think we've seen that before in the MCU. So that was just kind of weird, especially because I thought the reason why Ultron could do that was because he had the stones, but Killmonger didn't have any stones. He just fucking was absorbing that shit. So I didn't understand how that was working. And then I just didn't like that he got the stones. Like I feel like Killmonger should be a grounded level villain. He doesn't need to be the fucking villain of everything and be a cosmic villain like Ultron. Like Ultron as a cosmic villain was cool and it made sense because it was actually like pretty scary. But Killmonger is just a fucking regular dude, bro. Like it made sense why he would want it, but I don't know, just the way they did it, I didn't like it. And also, I feel like it was stupid that nobody wanted to go through with his plan. Like he said, we could use these stones to better all of our universes, and like not one person fucking agreed with him, which was kind of stupid to me. Like, I feel like somebody would have wanted to do that, or at least like toyed with the idea of doing that, but they're just like, nah, fuck you. And then he just like, all right, fuck you guys, and he tried to kill them all. And then Zola stands back up in the Ultron body, and he's like, "Give me those stones are mine, motherfucker." And then they're just like kind of fighting over it. And then Doctor Strange has the idea like, "Oh, we can't destroy the stones, but right now nobody's wielding them because they're just going in a back and forth state between Killmonger and Zola." So he creates a pocket dimension around them, and that's like an infinite prison that they have to live in, and that's how they kind of end the day. Which that also seemed like, I don't know, kind of easy too, but I was okay with it. Like it was kind of cool, especially because it leaves the possibility for both Ultron and Killmonger to return because they are both still alive in these versions of them. But we see that Strange takes that to his own pocket dimension from his universe, and he becomes like a watcher of sorts of those two characters. So he has to continue living his personal hell there. And because of that, I kind of feel like the Doctor Strange that's in Spider Man No Way Home is not Doctor Strange Supreme now that we've gotten to the end of the season. I feel like that is probably going to be Mephisto, but that's a whole other video. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Um, and when we see the Watcher debrief all the Guardians of the Multiverse, he tells them like, all right, now you have to go back to your own universes, and nobody will know that you ever left because he's gonna put them back at the same universe and the same time that they left. And we see like Peggy, she's like, man, but if there's all these universes, I could go to a universe where Steve's alive, or you could take me to a time where he was alive, which was back in World War II. But the Watcher tells her like, no, your universe at that time that you left needs you. And he tells her like, just trust me. and she looks over at Widow, who was still there. I think everybody else left already, but it's just Widow there, and she gives her like a little nod because they're friends, they trust each other, and she's like, "All right, I'll go." But Widow comes from a universe where there's nobody fucking else, so she's like, "Nah, I'm not going back because like, what is there for me there?" And there's nothing. So the Watcher does make an exception for her, and he actually puts her in the universe of Episode 3 where all the Avengers died, including Black Widow. So she returns to that universe, and it was cool that we got to see that. That was another part that I really liked. That we got to see what happens at the end after Loki decides to rule over Earth, and we see Captain America. He's back and he's wearing his Avengers costume, and then we see Captain Marvel. So both of the captains are there, and Black Widow joins them after it seems like Loki is possibly gonna win. He's gonna mind control Nick Fury, and Black Widow kicks him and makes him knock down the scepter, and she uses it to control him, which I'm assuming she would use to call off all the Asgardian army, who instead of the Chitauri is what he was using as his army to fight the Avengers. Um, which was kind of interesting that he had the scepter because the Chitauri were not there. So I wonder where that comes from because that universe took place during Thor 1 before the Avengers actually takes place and before Loki ever met Thanos, as far as we know. So I wonder how he got the scepter in this universe. That could be another indication of a plot hole. Or maybe Thanos went to him after he started controlling Earth because he's like, oh, this dude, like, I could use him. And maybe Thanos went to him this time instead of the other way around. Um, so I don't know. It would be interesting. Like I would like to see more of each of these universes. Like maybe not every single one of them, but some of these universes I would like to see more of. Even though we've seen like little glimpses here in the finale, I would like to see like if they did a season 2 where they did a full episode picking back up where these episodes left off. I'd be totally okay with that. But if they don't, I'll also be fine with that, except for the zombies one. Zombies, I need to see what the fuck happens with Zombie Thanos because they bogus if they don't give us nothing with that. Everything else, I don't need to see anything more. I'm okay with it the way it is. Like the Eagle thing, I feel like they could probably win. The Guardians or the Ravagers could win, and maybe even Peter Quill can still join them, which would be pretty fun to see. But the Thor one, he just goes with Jane. Killmonger, like I said earlier, he's just fucking gone, so they don't gotta worry about shit. They just gotta clean everything up. Um, I would like to see more of this universe that Black Widow goes to, and see who else is on that Avengers roster. Because all we saw were those two that were indicated at the end of that episode, Captain America and Captain Marvel, and now we know Black Widow from the Ultron universe joins them. But like, I wonder if War Machine was there, um, and who else might join them later on. Yeah, so I think that's all of them, and that's all I'll say, I guess, about episode 9. Um, it did leave me wanting more than I got, but overall I had fun with it. So now I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit more generally about the entire series of What If, and I'd say that overall by the end of it, it's not one of my favorites. Like I thought it could have been like one of my favorite things that we've seen recently and maybe in the entirety of the MCU. But I feel like they didn't really make the landing with the finale for me. So the finale kind of like knocked it down a whole bunch in my ranking. But I'd say overall the show is best when it's dark, like episode 4 with Doctor Strange, which was probably the darkest one. The zombies one, the Ultron one, or it's also really good when it just strays far away from what we've seen in the Sacred Timeline. So the Captain Carter one was not one of the best because it was like literally the same movie, just with switched characters. But the zombie one really was like a really different sort of thing. The Doctor Strange one, after the beginning, it was super different. The T'Challa one is one of my favorites. That one was super different, obviously. So when it does its own thing and when it gets dark, I think it's probably when the show is the best. And if it's both, that's pretty dope as well. So I'll say that like I'm gonna rank all the episodes. My favorite is the zombies one, episode 5. Then it's the T'Challa Star Lord one, episode 2. So zombies was dark and different. T'Challa Star Lord was different, and that one was actually super fun. It was not dark. Episode 4 is my third favorite. Super dark, super different. Episode 8, super dark, pretty different, yeah, pretty different. And then it's probably the finale. The finale is like right in the middle for me. And then like the lower tier are Party Thor, which I really enjoyed a lot the first time, but it's not really something that I would watch over and over again. Because it gets less funny, obviously, when you watch it again. But it was fun for what it was. But there wasn't really much else other than the laughs for that episode, so it's right there. And then it's the Captain Carter one because it was just too similar to Captain America: The First Avenger. And then even though like I still like the Captain Carter one, that's why it's still above these last two. The Killmonger one I did not like, so that one is number 8 out of 9 for me. And that one was just bad because it was not even a complete story. And then last, my least favorite is episode 3, the Avengers Who Done It, where everybody died. It was kind of cool. Like it was shocking to see like everybody die and the way they died. But I don't know, it just didn't leave like a huge impact on me afterward. And probably the coolest thing about it was the Hulk death, which that one was like holy shit. And going off of that, I'm just gonna say like my favorite moments in the entire series. I'll say one from each episode, and then I'll tell you like which one is my number one favorite. So from episode 1, that episode actually had some of my favorite action in the whole series with Captain Carter. I thought that shit was dope. I was most like fucking gleeful seeing that action in that one. And my favorite moment of it was Peggy taking out all the hydroplanes in the air, like jumping around from plane to plane, and then getting the assist from Hydra Stomper Steve. That shit was dope as fuck to me. Like I was like smiling that huge in that episode when that happened. And then my favorite moment in episode 2 was T'Challa connecting with his Wakandan roots because T'Challa is Black Panther. It was fun seeing him as Star Lord, but he's still T'Challa. He's still Wakanda. He is still the Black Panther, and he always will be. Um, Another moment that I liked was that post-credit scene. I think it was probably my favorite cliffhanger of any of the episodes with Ego and Quill. I thought Quill would actually join Ego in this version of events, but I guess the reason why Ego just used him as a battery is because he didn't think he was special, like he did in Guardians Volume 2. Because in Guardians Volume 2, he's like, "Oh, my son held an Infinity Stone," which is no easy feat. So that's why he wanted to actually like have him join him instead of just fucking zapping him right away. But here he's just like a fucking nobody, so he probably's like, all right, I'll just use you as a battery. Like I said in episode 3, the Hulk death was probably my favorite part there. It was fucking nasty and shocking as hell. Hank Pym fucking destroying him from the inside, making his heart explode, and she was crazy. Episode 4, it was the Watcher directly denying Doctor Strange help at the end of the episode. That shit gave me chills. Episode 5, my favorite part was probably Spider-Man mentioning Uncle Ben for the first time. His little speech, it was super Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's my favorite, so that was dope. And then I just love seeing all the gory zombie kills. That was cool that they actually did it there. My favorite moment in episode 6, Killmonger, was when he outed Obadiah Stane in the beginning. That was like kind of shocking that he did that right away, and it was funny. My favorite moment in episode 7 was the Thor versus Captain Marvel fight, and that episode was the funniest one, so I liked it for that reason. My favorite moment in episode 8 was Ultron becoming aware of the Watcher, and then it was also cool seeing them fight between universes, and all that stuff was really cool and insane to watch. The visuals were off the charts. My favorite episode in the finale was probably Doctor Strange eating that blast from Ultron trying to destroy the galaxy. That was fucking crazy. And man, if he does come back in live action in Multiverse of Madness or whatever, this motherfucker's gonna be unstoppable, bro. Like, this dude is fucking powerful. Um, but I feel like he wouldn't be a villain because I feel like he kind of learned his lesson and he's like redeemed himself in this episode, in episode 9. So that's why I don't think he will be the Doctor Strange from No Way Home, because I feel like that Doctor Strange is evil, whatever's going on there. But that's just a theory. Obviously, we'll see what happens with that later. But overall, I liked What If. It was a fun ride, but I don't think it has like huge major consequences for the future. I feel like all the other multiverse things that we're gonna see are gonna be their own things. They're not gonna really spawn off from this. But it would be cool seeing the Watcher Wild 2 in live action eventually. And just really quickly, in terms of my ranking of where I would put season 1 of What If, I would say it's not as good as Loki season 1. I think I like Loki better than What If, which at first throughout the season I was thinking What If would be better than Loki, but by the end of it, I think Loki's better. But I would put it What If above Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Um, and currently it's like right above Thor Ragnarok in my ranking of all the MCU projects, and also better than the Age of Ultron movie. Um, but not as good as Guardians Volume 2, which is right underneath Loki. And I actually just put a visual so that you could see what I'm talking about. But one thing I think they need to do if they want to improve the show in season 2 is make the episodes longer. I feel like the biggest negative throughout was that the episodes were just too short and it just happened so fucking quick. So if they just let some of the episodes breathe more, or the show overall breathe more, that would be really cool to see. Um, I don't know if we will see that because I don't know if they've already started working on it and they've had the same sort of runtime in season 2 as season 1. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited for the next thing we see in this multiverse saga, Spider-Man No Way Home. That shit's gonna be wild, especially after that Venom post-credit scene. Spoilers for that. I'm gonna talk about that real quick because I'm not gonna do a Venom review. Venom's gonna be in Spider-Man No Way Home, so that shit's gonna be fucking dope. And I have so many questions about that too. Like, is Spider-Man gonna get the fucking symbiote in the movie? If he does, that's gonna be wild. If Venom tries to eat Spider-Man, that's gonna be wild. I just want Venom to get the fucking spider logo If that's the only thing that happens with Venom in that movie, I'll be fucking happy with it. And just seeing him is gonna be cool, especially if Toby is in it, which Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield are gonna be in it for sure. I want to see an interaction between Tom Hardy's Venom and Toby Maguire, who faced a different version of Venom. I want to see what that's gonna be. That's gonna be fucking dope. So I'm hyped as shit for that movie. Multiverse of Madness is gonna be fucking nuts. But that's my review for What If Season 1. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.